This is the Storyworks Roundtable, where we have conversations about craft. Because becoming a successful author begins with writing a great story. There's still time to join the fiction group coaching spring session. It is 3 months, 2 meetings per month, and I've got a great group of some very talented, dedicated writers. And there's still room for a few more in this session. So go to wordessential.com/editing/coach to get all of the details and apply today. We start our sessions on February 2nd, so don't wait. If you're thinking about it, go get the details, go see what it's all about. Some of you know that I've been a teacher or mentor, both at different times, for Minnesota Prison Writing Workshop over the years. And this spring, I'm going to be teaching my workshop, Memory, Emotion, Body. Because of COVID and lockdowns and the strange couple of years we've had, I am unable to teach it in the facilities. It's going to be a video course. Now, what this means for you is I'm putting together a live classroom through Zoom of the Memory, Emotion, Body workshop. And because of these special circumstances, doing it for the Minnesota Prison Writing Workshop, I'm offering the live component at a pay-what-you-can sliding fee. So I hope to see you in this class. It is all about the story writer's first tools, our memories, emotions, and our physical bodies, and how we can mine and access our personal experience to create moving, compelling, sensory prose on the page for our readers that transports them into a lived experience. You can get all of the details about the workshop and sign up at storyworksfiction.com. And again, you can also just go to storyworkspodcast.com to today's episode, to this post. All of the links will be right there. You can learn more about Minnesota Prison Writing Workshop, more about the workshop itself, and also sign up and pay what you can. I would love to see you in the Memory, Emotion, Body workshop or the group coaching spring session. Check it out today. All right, enjoy this week's episode. Welcome to this week's Storyworks Roundtable. Today, Kathryn, Robert, and I are talking about finishing projects that you have been entrenched in, enmeshed in, deep diving in for a long time. All right, in the pre-talk, you guys were putting me on the spot, so I'm just going to pass the ball.
You can start with, Alida, what project have you been working on for the past couple of years?
Okay, well, I've been working on Playing with the Wind, which is a historical novel. It's set in Minnesota in the 1920s and 30s, and it is inspired by the eugenics movement here. So tons of historical research, lots of verisimilitude with, factual places and events and figures moving through my protagonist's life and creating the conflict for her. And it's pretty epic, if I do say so myself. Right now it's a story in 4 parts, and each part is a different stage of her journey and a different setting. So where she lives in the state is different in each of the parts, which means total new layer of research and development of the world I'm creating on the page. So I set myself up quite the novelist challenge with this one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably not the easiest one to pick for your debut, that's for sure.
No, well, so right now I'm in the fourth part, and it's actually been giving me some trouble. It's the final leg of her journey. She's in Duluth, which is at the tip of Lake Superior. So if you don't know the state of Minnesota, but kind of have a general sense of the United States, when you get to the inmost Great Lake, Lake Superior, and come as far inland as you can down into the little tip there, that's where Duluth sits. So it's a major inland seaport. And then she's going to travel primarily by foot, hitchhiking, and walking with a young child up to Grand Marais, which is up along the coast of Lake Superior, not quite to Canada. So her journey takes her from southern Minnesota to northern Minnesota, really crossing the entire state. And I think this setting has been giving me trouble. I'm not sure why, but one of my goals this year is to make some research trips. And I've been to the North Shore, I've been to Duluth, but I guess I haven't been up there specifically for the purpose of doing research and writing and, kind of taking my books, my historical research material, the photographs from the period, and like going to Duluth and trying to do that mental overlay of what it was like in the early 1930s and the Great Depression, with what I'm experiencing on the ground there, which is a fun part of historical research, but not always simple or easy. And then, of course, it's, I just mentioned the Great Depression. That's another piece of the setting of this period that is just so complex, because it's not just what problems are my protagonist facing right now. It's also what problems is society facing? What problems are the supporting characters facing? And the interplay of the world with my hero and her immediate concerns enriches the story, but it's also more challenging.
That's interesting. Cool. Yeah. So it's listening to you talk there, you sort of think, there's something in the future that in your short-term immediate future that is the nugget that's going to bring it all together. So that whether it's the trip into the area that you want more research about, or whether it's just that one sort of little gem that you're going to pick up, it just reminds me of when we're talking about idea generation, that sometimes what you actually need is an extra little spark for just to get the thing across the line that you're working on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just this. So I like the idea that when it's the old story. You sit there and stare at a blank sheet of paper. It's really hard to get anything out. But the moment you start moving, which is why again we talked about having ideas in the shower or while you're driving, or you're in the middle of a chore. It sounds as if this part 4 it's needing you to move. It's needing some sort of sense of not being static in order to be able to get it out of the system.
Yes. Yeah, it is. And, also thinking about what we were saying in the idea development episode, I know what my plot points are in part 4, or at least I think I do. I've storyboarded it. I know some of the key characters that she needs to encounter to make those plot points occur and to get me to the end of the book. But as we were talking in the other episode about sort of setting plot and theme, and how there's a point you were saying, Robert, where you have to pull back and draw on other elements. And I'm finding that as much as I know about my protagonist and her immediate concerns and her plot arc in this part of the book, the setting and the resultant supporting characters she needs to encounter on this journey have been throwing me for a loop, because every step of the way I need to create a change in her environment, and I need to encounter new people. And so, like the drafting I've done so far of this, she moves out of Duluth and she's picked up by a couple of hunter fishermen. They're like corporate types, one from St. Paul and one from Chicago, who came up so they could go have a manly adventure, leave the wife and kids behind and go off into the woods and, hunt and fish and stuff. And so now I've got these characters who are only in the novel for a few pages, playing this very minor role in her journey. But I need to start thinking, who are they? Where do they come from? Mm-hmm. Why are they here? Why can they afford to pick up a hitchhiker and stop at a restaurant? It's the Great Depression, what is their attitude toward my protagonist, this young woman hitchhiking with a small child? Is it paternalistic? Is it threatening? Is it, condescending? And so it's like every stage of the way I've exponentially increased the amount of development I need to do to go from idea to draft to like full story.
I love that though, because I love that you've been invested in this story for a couple of years and you got all this research and you've got your outline and you've got it storyboarded and you're still saying, okay, I've entered the scene and now I need to figure out what it's doing here. Right. But that's important. It's that the trajectory of your book, what part you're in, this character, the area, but you still have that development work as you're working through it. And I think sometimes we get so bogged down, oh man, I'm so close to finishing, but I still don't know what this character's doing here. Or at least I do. Throw my pencil in the air and be done with it, right? Let's just get to the end or just rush through it. But to take that time to say, no, actually, I need to go visit Duluth again because I need this little bit and I need this little supporting character to make sense. And I need to take the time to, figure out a guy who's going to be on the page for 5 pages. Like, okay, but it would make the story so much richer. And I think that's really important to say.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that you love this because it is all those things you just described. And that is the process I love about being a writer. And at the same time, I'm sort of at that stage where it's like, I need a break, stop hitting my head against the wall. What is going to shift this up for me so that I can go from, I don't know, we're just to I don't want to push through to the end. I want to love the rest of this journey with this character. I want to love the process of discovery and creation.
Yeah.
And have fun with it, And I think research trips is going to be a part of that because change the environment, change what I'm doing. So I'm not just drafting, but now I'm also visiting and thinking and researching again, and then more sparks ignite.
Yeah. I think we can get so focused sometimes on finishing the project that we forget about the process of the project being the important part. So it's a really cool mindset.
Mm-hmm.
How have you kept going? What has kept you back returning to this project and invested in it, while you've had other, balls in the air that you're juggling?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the theme, which sounds a little simplistic to just rest so much on that one word, but that's the word we use, right? Telling a story about this period of history and about this hero, this protagonist, of course, is representative in the micro of something that happened to a lot of women and a lot of girls. A lot of people had this kind of experience of, just in brief, very quickly here. She was born impoverished and became pregnant through abuse. And then nobody wanted welfare cases. Counties were responsible for locals' welfare, which is why transients were never wanted. Somebody moves in, you run them out on the rails kind of a thing. And it was, I didn't know this. Of course, I knew people were run out of town, like move them on, don't let drifters come in. And I knew the drifters were really threatening during the Great Depression and, before as well, but I didn't quite understand why until I was doing this research. And it's because it landed on the small community's shoulders, on their pocketbook, to support anyone who needed welfare. And so if you've got somebody who's from a poor family who becomes pregnant, immediately the community says, oh, no, you don't. We don't want to pay for you and your child, right? So what do? Well, we get the probate judge coming through town to declare you unfit and incompetent. And, we make you the state's burden. So we send you off to, in this case, the Faribault State School for the Feeble-Minded is where my character ends up, but then there's a system of places like this. There's a school for the feeble-minded. There was a school for girls who would have been considered competent, but too young to be mothers and such. There was the state orphanage, delinquents, epileptics. I still haven't figured out in my research why epilepsy was considered part of this sort of system of, moving people around and such. And so it's such a rich and under discussed piece of our history.
Okay, so it sounds as if what's kept you connected to it is a fascination with the topic, not necessarily a fascination with the topic. So you may have had the original premise, and then as you've explored it, it's deepened your fascination with the era and the horror of the problems that confronted you the everyday woman of the era.
And some empathy. Yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. I guess fascination wasn't top of mind, and I think another, like, you have to look at the flip side of the coin. As writers, we know that nothing is ever black and white. We don't have black hats and white hats. And so looking at the system that my protagonist is placed in means trying to understand it. People who developed this system didn't develop it just to get rid of poverty or to sweep problems under the rug. There was that, but there was also a mindset of progressive reform. This was very much the progressive era. And so it was seen as a solution to a problem. So often we look at history, we look back in time and we just think, oh, bad actors, all they wanted to do was this. But there were a lot of actors. Some of them were bad. Some of them were good. A lot of them were in the gray middle. And so in writing this story, I'm using the omniscient point of view. And so I get to enter the headspace and the intentions of more than one player, which is also fascinating. And, this was going back to from spark of idea to getting excited to the point of actually drafting it. Things about eugenics kept crossing my path, like I'd hear it mentioned in a podcast or something, or I'd see a documentary on PBS, and then my kid was taking a class for college and read some article and passed it on to me. And so it felt inescapable. It was like, okay, I know I've had this idea for years that there's something here. And then it became timely. Like, you can't escape this. You're just going to just write about it. You just have to, because the universe keeps putting this in front of your face.
Right. At a sort of on a daily basis and a weekly basis, what did you do to keep bringing yourself back to the table? Did you feel, was it organic? Did you feel, I really want to write this scene, or I want to flesh out this part of the story structure?
Yeah, mostly it was that. I did find, like, for a while I was writing sequentially just on the train tracks, and then it's been a while. I don't remember what happened, but I kind of hit the wall. And so I started writing the scenes that interested me. So then instead of writing sequentially, I was writing, this. And then I'd write for a while in, the halfway house. And then I'd write for a while in the school for the feeble-minded. And then I'd write. And so I made a mess of my manuscript doing that. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it, at least not without some serious organization along the way. But it kept me excited about what I was writing because I was following the spark of interest every time I sat down to write, instead of trying to follow my storyboard and be really true to my plan.
Yes, that takes me back to one of the more basic ideas about writing, which is, and you alluded to it before, which is, be excited. And if we're not excited writing a scene, then there's a very good chance the reader's not going to be terribly excited reading it. So, I like that idea that you follow your motivation. I mean, as you say, it comes with some consequences. If you then say, I don't want to write this scene, and I'll go write something more exciting to me, which is great. But then at some point, you've got to come back to why wasn't that one exciting to you? And, what are you going to do to turn that around? And have you now created some problem stitching timelines together and continuity issues and all of the above?
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely the stitching together piece, which I haven't really confronted yet. But a big piece is I've been drafting longhand and, flog myself here. I didn't type as I went. So now I'm faced with typing. Hundreds and hundreds of pages. And I don't even know how many pages I'm on because I started jumping around. So instead of numbering sequentially, I was saying, I was giving codes. So it'd be the lakefront scene, page 1, page 20, and then, the diner scene.
Yep.
So, whoops. Do as I say, not as I do.
I don't know, because for me, drafting longhand like that then turns into typing as my first revision pass, right? And so then you get the opportunity to stitch it together going from longhand to the computer. So you'll have that, you'll be in it as you're typing it rather than being like, now I'm typing this scene. Now I'm typing this scene, where you're just literally taking your longhand form and putting it in the computer. You can take that moment to switch some stuff around to make it work. So, I mean, there's pros and cons, right?
Yes. And that is the best case scenario. So ask me in a couple of months how my typing is going, and maybe I'll have a happy report about that. I've been dreading it, just the manual labor of typing it. I've been dreading it. So,
well, then you hope that you don't start changing so many things that you just don't even look at the back 100 pages of longhand.
That can happen too. That can definitely happen where you're like, yep, obsolete. My story just took a right turn. Mm-hmm.
I've taken plenty of outlines that I've done in longhand, where they've been had sort of, paragraph by paragraph chapters or whatever, and then dictated them. So I don't know if you thought about doing that.
I have started using Dragon, and I think it's going pretty well. I'm still not the accuracy is not as high as I want. It really doesn't get homophones, No. There's so many times where I say a word and it types what I spoke, but not what I meant,
Yeah. But at least, but you've got the hard copy, so at least you can come back to it when you come in editing mode. It's more of a problem if you're just dictating off the top of your head and inventing things as you go along. Then if you come back to that a couple of months later and you go, huh? because it's given, two homophones in a row, and it doesn't make any sense.
Yes. Yeah.
So it does have its own issues, but if you use a good mic, I mean, the accuracy is stunning.
Yeah. So anyway, there you go. My goal this year is to finish Playing with the Wind.
I am on a slightly connected topic, but a little bit more frightening, perhaps. I was listening to something the other day, and it might have been a podcast or something, and they were talking about lifespans and how, if, let's assume, we live to 80, and that's the hope, we all go longer than that and healthier than as well. So that's 4,000 weeks. And if I manage to live, as long as my father lived, then I've got 1,000 weeks left, and they're ticking down. So, I suddenly started thinking about, oh God, I keep, it's been another 6 weeks since I haven't done that extra bit on that first draft I've been working on. Oh no, I've got, it's
and in classic Robert fashion, he has just presented you all with a stick that you can go beat yourself with.
Right? I know. Oh no, the stick and the carrot. Good grief.
So, don't let the weeks go by, folks. Gosh.
Thank you for listening to the Storyworks Roundtable. Find all our shows, show notes, and videos at storyworkspodcast.com. I don't know what I have to say yet, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. It might be a crap episode.